Lights, camera, action, Mr. Ortel. And we've got Mr. Smith going through your phone in Washington. How are you, Charles?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks for asking. I hope you're not too hot there in
Oh, yeah.
the heat dome.
Yep. It's been a hot day and, super foggy from, I guess, gigantic fires in Canada. Justin Trudeau, no longer the prime minister.
Moron.
He's now dancing around with Katy
I know.
Perry. It's
I
just
know.
ridiculous.
Makes me wonder just how straight Katy Perry is. But getting to the central poster and the theme really behind it, there's a long pattern and practice here of senior level politicians in both parties being prepared to lie under oath. Now, Bill Clinton trivialized that with the whole Paula Jones controversy. So, of course, everybody lies about sex. Well, no. When you're before a court and you're the highest legal officer in the land, the president, it is not okay to lie under oath as the president, and it is certainly not okay for Jack Smith to lie under oath as he did repeatedly through the whole process of doing what he did, torturing Trump, Confederates, and the wider world. And he set a terrible precedent. Frankly, when I think about investing in the United States of America, I look at this and I say to myself, why would I do that? I mean, the system of law allowed a sitting president of the United States to be tortured while he was president and tortured afterwards. His family was debanked, um, deplatformed on social media. He was relentlessly pursued by a pack of hounds, including this asshole Smith. But let's not leave out Alvin Bragg and the people around this mess: Norm Eisen, Andrew Weissman, and the various people who are constantly popping off on supposed legacy media and on social media. This is all a blizzard of lies. Jack Smith could get up there sonorously in front of the Congress and say, well, we didn't look at the messages. Well, now that turns, of course, that wasn't true. And maybe he personally didn't look at them, but his team certainly did. And it's not just 44 messages. I mean, these people believe it was a not Caddyshack, it was Blues Brothers. They believe they're on a mission from God. They could go, do whatever they want because their cause is noble, whatever that cause may be. Leave out the fact that every single one of these people is getting rich off this and has multiple mansions or apartments, real estate, Benjamins in the bank. This has been an unholy crusade against truth and justice in the name of truth and justice, funded by we the people. And I don't think Trump is mad enough. You know, Jack Smith's conduct here, and it's not simply with regard to this mess. I was reading an article this morning about what he did in Kosovo, what he did when he was at The Hague, and what he likely did is in the Justice Department before he got to The Hague. I mean, this man is a diabolical creep. And he belongs in prison really for the rest of his life after a fair trial and a chance to defend himself and all that. But these are the stakes we're playing with. The United States needs to go through a reformation in its criminal justice system. If a punk like Jack Smith can hold the course of global progress hostage uh, and meddle the way he did to influence elections, multiple elections, he can't just simply get away with this and walk away scot-free. And I hope that we see some old-fashioned, Old Testament vengeance here, so that when the next Jack Smith is sitting there in Harvard Law School or wherever he is, Yale Law School, learning about what he can get away with, that person understands there are terrible prices to be paid when you are prepared to lie under oath to train the fearsome and awesome resources of the federal government and other governments in the United States against private people. This is outrageous stuff. And the fact that he gets to sit up there and and come back hard when he's questioned, mean, this is a guy who cannot tell the truth. And every aspect of his life needs to be gone over now. And I'm quite certain, just with regard to the Trump prosecutions, that the man should never see daylight again. He should go to a place at the end of this criminal justice system. Again, he gets a chance to defend himself, and there should be a jury of his peers involved. But if he is found guilty, and if a judge has to, of various crimes, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know which ones would be the most interesting to pursue first. But if he is actually found guilty, he should never again walk free. There should be no possibility of parole, and he should be stripped. The fines and penalties that should he should be subject to in the criminal sphere should just bankrupt him, and he should also be open, I would argue, to civil prosecution. I mean, this is outrageous behavior. Not that I have any strong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't agree more, Charles. I think we need to also discuss the fact that Jack Smith originally came out of the Eastern District of New York. There are so many treacherous scoundrels who were born out of that cesspit, not the least of which is Andrew Weissman. I'm just increasingly concerned that, as you said, Trump is not invested in this or interested in this enough. Andrew Weissman, I discussed this. When is this tweet from? This is from April 2025. There's been zero movement on this, where Andrew Weissman bought a $7.5 million New York City condominium from longtime Jeffrey Epstein co-investor Leonard Toberoff. And we had all this screwy business where this was a loan given from that bank. Toberoff was connected to this guy. What's his name? Hoffenberg, who wound up dead.
Stephen Hoffenberg, yeah.
I mean, this is just an outrageous scandal, and it's all the same people: Weissman, Smith, Norm Eisen, Comey, all these people, and nothing has happened.
Well, not to mention, I mean, the real, the highest level elected official who deserves scrutiny here is Barack Obama. But beyond that, Barack Obama, frankly, is not smart enough to have come up with this whole plan. There are one or more people behind Barack Obama and the project to destroy America by installing him as president of the United States in 2008, and then letting him, quote, fundamentally transform the United States of America, as he bragged about doing. Trump is going to give a speech your time Thursday night, I guess 9 p.m., assuming it goes forward. That moron bartender is going around trying to implore the networks not to carry it. I mean, who cares what a bartender has to say about anything other than, yes, sir, I do have the Macallan 18 available, and the ice. If you really want ice, the ice cubes are ready. I mean, AOC is going. Literally, it's reported that she's saying that the networks have an ethical obligation not to carry the speech. These are the same networks who continued to insist that the Russian collusion delusion was real. I mean, these are people who allowed 5 different network Sunday shows, allowed that contemptible bitch, Susan Rice, in 2012 to spread the crap that she spread about what Benghazi was all about. We talk about ethical standards in networks, that's like talking about, the religious interests of prostitutes. I mean, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And the best person you can have, for that the swamp can mobilize to try to get this head of steam up is AOC, right? I mean, I would love to see her transcripts, from college. I would guess that she majored, she probably got an A in basket weaving, but took no serious course, no economics course, no math course, no hard science course. This is not even a bantamweight when it comes to her intellectual standing. And that's where we are now. Got John Solomon and his team saying, oh yeah, big shit's happening at 9 p.m. I know because I've seen it. Trump echoing this, there better be some big shit coming here.
It's by all measures seems like it's going to be about the 2020 election. We had Mike Lindell, TV journalist Cara Castronuva, who was very nervous to see you and I outside the Hunter Biden art gallery when Scott Libido was doing some sort of street performance there. She's in there asking Trump, and I mean, he seems quite clearly ready to talk about the election rigging, which is important. But I mean, again, he's looking back. He's not looking forward. Why has nothing been done about Andrew Weissman, about Jack Smith, about ongoing lawfare from Norm Eisen and all of the nonprofits that all of these guys use to fund it? Charles, remember when I found that in the 990s for the Lawfare Institute that Vindman was paid $320 something thousand dollars. They claim in the 990 it's for 40 hours per week of work. That's absolutely false. And even when I asked Vindman, where's the evidence that you work there 40 hours a week? He said, oh, there's a press release. It's like, okay, thank you for just admitting that the only evidence that you did anything there is in a press release. So isn't that a false statement on a document to say that the guy, it's an obvious no-show job where they're just funneling six figures to this guy, I think, as basically, tribute for having lied on the stand to implicate Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I take the point that it's possible that Trump had good actionable intelligence that we face a grave threat from the current Iranian regime. It's possible. But, and obviously, if that were true, we'd have to do everything possible to neutralize that threat. But dealing with the Iranian regime is dealing with a counterparty over which you have no direct control. Inside the US, the President of the United States should have the ability to eliminate charity fraud and to eliminate this, to just blow up the swamp. I mean, these people, if you look at all the forms you're talking about, the signature block, it says, I'm signing, whoever signed it is signing this form under penalties of perjury. When you read the various memos that come out of the boffins who work in the IRS, they make it sound like lying on these forms is very serious and that people take it seriously. But then on the other hand, you hear the standard refrain, well, the umpty up tens of thousands of people who work in the IRS are stretched thin. Every morning they have to decide whether to get a mochaccino or a latte when they roll in at 10:30 with their, carrot cake and whatever. And then they spend 30 minutes maybe checking their phones and then go out to a nice lunch and then, roll out to the golf course at 3 p.m. I mean, how complicated is it to go to the biggest charities in the country, Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, these large foundations that have been lying for decades about where their gigantic grants go. Gates gave close to $500 million to various Clinton Foundation entities that have never existed lawfully. And I put them personally on notice, going through their appropriate channels in 2016 and 17. So they know, Harvard knows, the trustees of Harvard know, and Yale and all these big ass places that shouldn't be tax exempt. That's an area where, people howl and scream, and maybe he won't get, invited to the most interesting cocktail parties in East Hampton and Martha's Vineyard in August. But the charity world is a world that could be policed if people wanted to police it. And it needs to be policed on the right and on the left and in the middle. So, Matt the Schlapper in the American Conservative Union, that needs to be taken down, as does the NRA, as do other places that are just bold grift engines. But certainly the Clinton Foundation, the Obama Easter Island Toilet Bowl Foundation, and other of these presidential foundations that are just grifting to their heart's content need to be shut down. That's something you can do without checking with the latest nutcase in Iran who's claiming to lead the country. And it's not like the United States is sitting there with a gigantic sovereign wealth fund and deficits under control and debt under control. at a time when interest rates are falling. Interest rates are rising. And the further thing I just read this, I forgot about this, that it is likely that we will not have a budget deal by September, which means we could have another government shutdown in September, which would fit the narrative that the Democrats want for this election looming in November 2026. That when Republicans are in control of everything, what do you get? Chaos. You know, when Democrats are in control, think back to Bill Clinton and halcyon Obama years. You've got unicorns and leprechauns and money falling out of the sky and peace and tranquility and the JCPOA. That's the trajectory the Democrats think they're on. And you got very few shopping days left until the election.
Chuck Schumer was apparently very flatulent in Congress the other day. Did you see that?
No, what happened? He was doing this.
You had the New York Post as he farts mid-speech in Congress here. Let's see if we can maybe have some audio on this.
On Iran and the NDAA. When all the Trump administration can say...
I don't know, did you get the sound there, Charles?
I couldn't hear it now.
Oh, yeah, he's flatulent. I mean, this is what happens when you put the cheese on the burgers before they're cooked.
Yeah, again, I mean, why would we care at this point what Chuck Schumer has to say about anything? I mean, here's a guy when he didn't get his way, what's his name? Meritless Fartman didn't get to be a Supreme Court justice. And so he then warned Trump, went out to, was it near Kavanaugh's house or whatever? What was the thing that Schumer said?
Summon the whirlwind or something.
Right, yeah. And you will pay the price. I mean, he goes down that track, but Trump is incendiary. And that's before we get back into, and I hope Trump will get into this, what really happened on January 6th, leading up to January 6th. How many people were involved and had foreknowledge trying to use the events of January 6th as a way of eliminating Trumpism and possibly having a forever Democrat-led country? How many government players were involved in that? And I would guess it's thousands. It's not, two people.
Now, I don't know. See, when I see stuff like this, Donald Trump is more concerned with Taylor Swift's mystery dog than Jack Smith and Andrew Weissman. I mean, it's like, what the hell is he doing?
I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, look, I think the 9 o'clock speech is important, and I reserve judgment until then. But it better be a bar. I mean, he knows better. He knows about TV. He knows about celebrity. He knows about messaging. To raise expectations. And Solomon has been breathless. I like John Solomon personally, but he's been forever, on the TikTok brigade saying, "Don't worry, people are going to be happy. This is coming. Just watch my Just the News podcast." And okay, now he's involved. He's been read into whatever's happening. He's gone on various shows saying, yes, people will be happy. People will be happy. And what I was taught by my editors at the Washington Times is that if you want to be in the prediction business, that's one thing, but it's far better to wait and see, what happens at 9 p.m. and then evaluate it than to go down a track of saying, well, it's likely going to be this or it's likely going to be that. It's going to disappoint. It's going to And Solomon knows that. I mean, he spent a long time at the Washington Times and better places. So a lot's riding here. Maybe I've read one piece that this is an elaborate scheme where Pulte does the dirty work before this guy Clayton supposedly steps into the role of DNI, and there's all this insider analysis of what's really going on. The facts are that if you want to make money today illegally, the best thing to do is to become a minority of whatever kind you want to be, get associated with some global disaster, set up a charity, and steal to your heart's content. If you don't want to do that, just go down the track of trying to work again as a minority at Harvard or Yale or whatever, and you'll be a tenured professor or president. You'll have, millions of dollars in salary. You'll get tenure eventually. You'll make money off your books. And when it's revealed that everything that you wrote about is fiction, you appropriated from somebody else, they'll say, well, your scholarship was really something that was very important, and we need to keep you around and pay you $7 million, millions a year because you happen to be a Black woman. In my day, which I know is, the last millennium at this point, and I'm freaking old, but in my day, in these major institutions, you just did not dare do any of this kind of stuff. And so shame on the trustees, for example, of the Obama Foundation and the Clinton Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, all these charities, the trustees at Harvard and Yale and elsewhere. Shame on all of them for tolerating this bullshit.
Not to pivot too hard, Charles, but I think a lot of people were concerned about this thing where they're saying they're going to merge the United States and Israeli military. That seems quite crazy. I mean, why would we do that?
That's absolutely crazy. And Vance is quoted. Apparently, the Israeli government apparently does spend a lot of money trying to influence the press. And Vance was giving an interview where he was complaining about the degree to which agents of Israel were trying to frustrate his efforts to get a deal across the line in the MOU or whatever you want to call it. Look, lasting peace in the Middle East is something that would make tremendous sense to the people who live there. But on the other hand, if your game is selling weapons, your total addressable market just shrank by a significant percentage if there's lasting peace. So there are a lot of people who are not interested in seeing lasting peace. And many of those people have weapons and agents who will do whatever they need to do.
This certainly seems like the early start of a J.D. Vance presidential campaigning thing to, go on Joe Rogan. He looks like he's dyeing his hair, doesn't he?
I would guess he is.
Yeah.
But people tell me, and I think it's true, that if you go on air just after you take a shower, even if you're not dyeing your hair will look darker.
Except if your beard is totally gray and you're like 45 and starting to go gray, and then previous photos of you look grayer.
Yeah, and it's not a shock that your hair turns white as you age.
Yeah. Well, Joe Rogan had another solution.
Right. You mean get some neon signs?
You just shave it.
Yeah, no, I'm just teasing. Hey, actually, we should get some neon signs. What the hell? Maybe I'll look at that.
Yeah, I got to tap the budget. Speaking of which, I want to thank everybody who sponsors the show and remind them that we're going to continue in just a few minutes on the First Amendment Forum. People can join on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I had mentioned, Charles, there's a new interface on X for programming live streams. And it has this very confusing section that caused me to believe that you were able to program sponsor-exclusive live streams. But no, it was just allowing you to determine who could chat in the live stream. So I've been sending out sponsor-exclusive stuff to everybody. If you've been watching on X, you follow me at JG_CSTT. Please become a sponsor by subscribing on X. You've got a few episodes for free. Those will go out right after we're done. But we'll be back in less than 5 minutes in the First Amendment Forum. There's a lot more to discuss, so stay with us, everybody.